In this project, we'll combine the previous two game tips and move in the 2D coordinates in all four directions. So in this project, you can hit right to move right, and then hit left to move left. You can also hit up to move up, down arrow to move down. And let's take a look at the code of this project. And it should look hopefully very familiar, because it's just simply combining the two previous game tips, except that I added also variables to help us ease into the next projects. So in this project, I created two additional variable called, you can ignore the is on x-axis, that's for the next one. Center, you just focus on the center x and center y. So center x and center y are just two variables I will use to make my code cleaner. And then if you would like to make a variable, you can just click on make a variable, and then you can give any variable name. When you create a variable, you can make that visible for all the sprites or for this sprites only. For simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna set for all sprites, but sometimes you may have two variables that are of the same name but for different sprites. So in that case, you want to put it for this sprite only. All right, so since we already have our variables, we're not going to create a new one, so we're going to click cancel. And let's take a look at how this project works. If you click on go or the green flag, it will snap it to, like before, to the location of x equal 3, y equal 38, because we have the variables set. And it will also point in direction 90, right? And then if you move in here, instead of having just horizontal code or vertical code, we have all four directions. So here, if you click on right arrow, it's going to move right. You can see that the right arrow block is highlighted, or the activated block will be highlighted or kind of blink, right? This is moving left. I'm moving up, then you can see that the up block is kind of lit up. And then when I go down to hit the down key, you can see that the down arrow is lit up. And so this is how you can combine two projects together to make a simulating a car. I would say this simulating a car like floating, because a real car doesn't, this looks weird because the car should only be traveling on a surface, right? So this is a little odd. If you're creating a 2D platform games, this looks a little weird. Now what if you want to create, now this is okay if you're creating a 2D games that doesn't have a platform, you can move about, you can I guess float, then this is okay. But I think if you want to create something more realistic, then you want to travel only on a certain path, right, or on some platform. You want to travel only on something, and to simulate our earthly experience, right? That there's gravity, you're going to be glued to the ground or glued to a rope, right? So I want to show you the other the extension or a more difficult, a little harder versions of this project. And I'll share both projects. I'll share the link of both projects in this video. So this one, it might look a little daunting, but it used several additional coding blocks, and I'll just quickly explain what this project is doing by showing you how it works. And so this is a lot of code. It will make more sense when I show you how it works. So when you click on the green flag, you will see that this, not only do you have the sprite, but you also have a horizontal double arrow and also vertical double arrow. The horizontal double arrow shows you that you can indicate that you can move sideways. So as you can see, when I move out of a little bit out of the center, the vertical double arrow went away, right? And so when that happened, that means it's giving me hint. This game is giving me hint that I cannot move up and down, right? Because there's no arrow, there's no indication. So when I see the horizontal arrow, double arrow, that means I can move horizontally or sideways. If I see the vertical arrow, double arrow, that means I can move vertically or up and down. So as you see, if I move to the center, you can see that it detects, hey, I can move sideways. So I'm moving sideways, and again, when you get to the center, it detects that, hey, I can move up and down. And then you see that the up and down arrow, or the double, or the vertical double arrow, continue to follow our sprite or the player sprite when I move along the y-axis. And also when I hit left and right arrows, it doesn't go left and right. So this is more realistic to what we would expect in a game, that it would travel along a path or on a platform. And this idea of checking if a sprite is on a path, we can use it for more complicated games, such as maybe a baseball game that you run from first base or home base to the first base, and you follow a certain path. So here I want to explain, but this is a really simple path. It's just x-axis and y-axis, but it's a good demonstration of how you can create a game, use the same pattern to create a game that travels a certain path. And then when you move your sprite, it's gonna not just move anywhere or free form, or freestyle. It will follow a certain path, and by making sure that it is on a specific either line or curve. So here, let's dive right in to the code that will make this happen. First, we have the starter block, and I have the variables center x, center y, like we explained before, and I set them to initial value. When I click on green arrow, they got snapped to that location, right? 3, x is equal to 3, y is equal to 38, and then point in direction 90. And it also has when right arrow key press, when left arrow key press, and then the up and down. But the difference is that you see I have a if block check before I move, and this is just to check that if I can move. So how do I check that? You can see that in this if block there is a green, this is conditional. So let me drag it out so I can explain and zoom in here. So this is a conditional block. The conditional block, essentially this whole thing will return true or false. When you click on it, it will tell you, is this a value true or is the value false? And then this value is going to be evaluated when the program runs through the if block. It will say, okay, let me check if this is true, then I allow the program to go inside and execute. Okay, and then so here's this variable is called is on x-axis. If I'm on x-axis, then I can move sideways, right? So I can change my x. By change x by either a positive or negative value, you're moving sideways. And then also you're pointing in directions, a 90. So 90, let's just refresh. 90 or, point to negative 90 is a little weird. Point 90 is the best. So to move sideways, we want it to look like it's pointing 90, right? So when you, when it is on x-axis, we want it to point in direction 90. And here the same, when the left arrow is click, if it's on x-axis, let me move the shuffle around the block so it looks cleaner and more symmetrical between the left arrow and the right arrow code block. So this shows these two side by side, put them side by side. They both check when right or left arrow key were pressed. Both code block check to see if it's on x-axis, and if so, they both point to directions 90, and then they both change to the next costumes to simulate the wheels turning. And then just the difference again is just that when you hit the left arrow, it moved to the left, so it changed x by 10. And then the other up and down block, instead of checking if it's on x-axis, we checked if is on the y-axis, and the code inside is the same as the previous two projects. And how do you check if it's on x-axis or y-axis? Let me move down to this red looking thing. So this red block is called a my blocks. It's a custom blocks that you can create yourself. So when I create this right here, there are actually 3 custom blocks. There's a check positions, there's a check is on Y, and also check is on X. There are 3, as you can see right here, there are 3 my blocks, or you can think of as custom blocks. And to create custom blocks, pretty straightforward. You can click on make a block, and then you could decide to add an input or a different type, or add a label to make your block more readable. But to keep it, I kept it simple. I didn't add any input. And I create check position. Check is on Y and check is on X. Inside of check positions, you can actually, in a block, you can call the other blocks. So check position, you actually check. It actually use check is on X and also check is on Y. When it run through this, it's as if this when it goes through in the program run through check is on X, it's going to jump over here and run this block. It's going to set it's going to set this variable. The variable name is on y-axis to the value of this conditional variable. So let me break this part apart to explain this better. This is I guess round, rectangular, or oval looking things is a mathematical operator. So it's from here. If I click on, I don't know if you can, so here this is the block, right? So this is the absolute value of something. And you can actually, if I'm just gonna drag it out here to show you, you can actually select different function, and is absolute ABS is one of them. So let me put it back. So what this does is that it takes your current positions, current X position, your current X value, and just subtract the center being 3, X is 3. And remember, we set the center to be X is 3, Y is 38, because I drew it that way, right? I draw the center that way, I draw the stage that way. So I know where the center is. But the reason why I want to create variable is that it's readable. So I don't want to remember that my center is 3, my center is at X is equal 3 and Y is at 38. I don't want to remember that. So that's why the variable center X and center Y is helpful, because you set the value when the program first starts right here, right? And then once you set that value, you can just use the variable. That's more readable. So let's go down to the bottom, and essentially this just check how far away you are from the center of X. When your X positions, right? How far away are you from the center of X? And when I add it here is how far the distance of your X distance or X difference should be less than 10. If it's less than 10, then I'm gonna say that, hey, you are on the y-axis. In addition, after we have set this value, every time we call checks positions, it will set these two variable is on y-axis, is on x-axis. There are also 3 different blocks that interact with these variables. So I added 3 different independently running threads or running blocks that they would continuously running in the background when this program is running. So the first one is when the green flag is clicked, when the game starts, essentially, a thread will continue to call this method check positions. And check positions essentially just, it keeps setting the is on x-axis and is on y-axis. It keeps checking if this sprite is on x-axis or y-axis and set the variable accordingly. And then another thread is if also it starts when the green flag is clicked and it continues to do something. So it continues to check if this variable is on this sprite is on x-axis. If it's true, then I broadcast you can move horizontal. And broadcast is just a way for sprites to communicate with each other. And the other one is if this variable is true, if this sprite is on y-axis, then I broadcast another message called can move vertical, right? And to broadcast a message quickly, you can just drag out the broadcast blog from event, and then you can just select new message, or you can use an existing message. And then you can catch or listen to a message, broadcast message, by using when I receive blog, right? And then you can select message to receive. So I'm going to put it back, and actually these two sprites, move horizontal and move vertical, do listen to the broadcast message. So here it says when the green flag is clicked, it would hide itself because we don't want the horizontal arrow to show up unless this card can move horizontally. So when I receive can move horizontal, that means this card can move horizontally, and it will go to sprite 1, and then it will show up. It will wait 0.2 seconds and then go away, right? We don't want it to stick. We want it to show up, and every time it receives a message, it show up for a frame or 0.2 seconds. The move vertical works exactly the same, except that it listens to a different message called can move vertical. It will only show up if it receives can move vertical, and it will go to the sprite and give you a hint that this sprite can now move vertically. So if we connect them all together, when we hit the start, the sprites will set the center, set the variables, and go to the center, right? And then when you move right and left, it will know that it could move right and left, and then it will always have an arrow because it doesn't let it move off the path, right? So this is how I use the my blocks to make checking easier. And by checking, I just check the X and Y value of the current sprite and see how far away they are from the center. And then every time they are at the center, or they are close enough to the line, or they are on the line, or on the X-axis or Y-axis, an appropriate sprite shows up and give you a hint that you can control it in that direction. Hopefully this would make sense. If not, please leave the comment down below. I'll try to explain or provide more details, explanations. In this video we cover quite a bit, and I think, but it is important coding concept to know, and it will help you in your future more complicated 2D platform games. See you later.